The law of attraction, brothers and sisters, is nothing more than what Jesus has already taught us 2,000 years ago.
Come on now.
It is the law of expectation. It is the law of confession. That if one would begin to confess what they believe, and if you believe in your heart and don't doubt what you speak or utter out of your mouth, you have then at that moment begin to align yourself,
come on now,
with what God says is already possible for you. He says that when you pray, I want you to believe that you receive. Look at somebody, say, believe that you receive.
Believe that you receive.
It's important to notice that believe and receive is in the present tense. But believing that you shall receive it is in the future. I shall have it in the future. But in order for me to get it in the future, I had to believe it in my present.
Right.
I don't believe that I'm going to get it. I believe that I already have it. Tell somebody, say, I already got some stuff. I already got some stuff. When you understand this principle of Jesus, then you recognize that you're operating in a spirit of expectation at all times. And whatever your expectation is, then will begin to control your emotional state. It will control your praise. It will control your worship and your adoration. When you're in an expectation for God to do what God has promised, it causes a down head to be lifted and smile to come on your face. And you come in a place where you don't necessarily just need a praise team. You got praise already on the inside of you because you're living in a promise and in the vision of your future of what God has already said. And so the expectation is the atmosphere of miracles. When you're in the atmosphere of praise and expectation, you are in a place where God likes to dwell and where God likes to show his glory. And so your expectation then is either going to be positive or negative. Help me preach. Look at a neighbor and say, what kind of expectation do you have? You see, it's either going to be positive or it's going to be negative. When you're in a negative expectation, you are operating in the spirit of fear. You have believed the report of the enemy, and so that picture that he's painted to you, you have begun to embrace it and believe it, and you're worried and in frustration because you are looking at the object of your fear and it's causing you to have a negative expectation. However, when your expectation is positive, then it is based on God and his word. Whenever you have a positive expectation, that means you're in an expectation of faith. Faith is the substance of things expected. It is the evidence of things not seen. So the question then becomes this: if God is the object of your faith, what then is the object of your fear? And whatever the object of your fear is, you have to ask yourself a question. Is the object of my fear greater than the object of my faith? And if God is the object of your faith, it doesn't matter how big your Goliaths are. If God is bigger and greater than your trouble, then you already know that your trouble has to fall and you have to be victorious. And so whatever you face, you are always facing it in a spirit of victory and expectation. Somebody said victory in the house. You got to expect victory. You have to expect to triumph. You have to expect to come out of every situation that is unlike God. I know that there's a recession going on, but you have to get to the place where you have determined you ain't going to participate in the recession, but you're going to keep participating in God's blessing. You're not going to worry about what's happening around you. This didn't change our God. Our God is still God, and I still expect him to do everything he said he was going to do before there ever was a recession. Somebody shout, I expect God. I expect God to do it. So expectation then has to deal with our faith. And so then faith then will become limited if your expectation is limited. If you don't believe God or you don't have a great expectation, there's nothing for God to work with. God works with your faith. God works. He is God believed. That's what faith is. And acted upon. So then when you begin to limit limit what you expect from him, you actually begin to limit your faith. At that moment, we begin to put God in a box. We create a box for him, and we have determined what he will do and what he's able to do. And what God says to us today is, take me out of your box. Take the limits off of your mind and begin to expect the impossible. I wonder, do anybody even expect the impossible? You know, we hear these things and we preach these things. Sometimes I wonder, do we really expect God to do the impossible in our lives? And so God says this to us: all of my promises are yes, and they are amen in him. In other words, he says, my promise is my word. My word reveals my nature. My nature and my will is reflected in what I've said to you. So whenever I say to you, my word then becomes a matter of personal integrity with me. I've got to back up what I said. Matter of fact, God says he watches over his word in your life, that he might perform every declaration that has come out of his life. He says, my covenant will I not break, and I will never alter the thing that has come out of my lips. If I told you you was going to be blessed, you ought to start looking for the blessings to come, because when I spoke it, somebody shout, it's already done. It's already done. My promise then is already done. God said, I promise to fulfill everything I've spoken, so you can expect it to come to pass. I promise to give you, when he said to Abraham, Abraham, I'm going to bless you, and everybody that blesses you, I'm going to bless them. You see, I got this opinion about myself, that those that get close to me is going to get blessed, because the blessings are on me. Touch somebody and say, you're going to be blessed